Oh, man. I hope I got the coordinates right. Yes! Hello?
That is not the proper call sign, Agent.
Oh, shit. Right. I mean, code 420, Whiskey Echo Echo Delta.
Password confirmed. Welcome, Agent. Are you prepared for your next assignment?
Yes! Oh, man, this is so cool.
I assure you, this is deadly serious, not a game. Your mission, should you is there like, something going on where you are? It's kind of loud.
Oh, that's just a hurricane. Like, anyways, what's the mission?
Oh, okay. A hurricane? Whoa, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to pick up, actually, but I've got plenty of time. Anyways, come on, dude, let's stay in character here.
Dude, are you insane? Get out of there!
I will. I just need the next mission objective.
No, man, I'm serious. This isn't a game, okay? Not the game. Get out of there now.
Wait, is this a test? Is it like this? Is this a test, right? Or for my commitment to the cause?
Hang up and get away from the natural disaster!
Hello? Hello? Huh. Guess I better wait till he calls back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Region Free Gamers Podcast, the podcast fluent in gaming. I'm Mike, and we're diving deep today into alternate realities. And no, we're not talking with peyote and sensory deprivation tanks. We're talking about alternate reality games, specifically ones related to video games, both big and small. Joining me on this expedition into the outer limits of the real, I have first my flatliner-style lifeline who was on hand with defibrillators to shock me back from the brink if he's not checking stocks. It's Arnaldo. Rise and grind, Arnie.
Nice. What am I supposed to do with all this peyote I boofed over the border? Like,
give it to Joe Rogan.
And also we have the mad scientist who definitely just locked me in a fridge he calls a sensory deprivation tank to talk to space dolphins. All the while laughing maniacally for science, it's Paul. How are the numbers, Paul?
Man, I wish I had time for a sensory deprivation tank. I've never tried one. Have you guys tried one?
No. I have. I've
have
known
you seen
people who
Altered
have done
States? Have you seen Altered States? I don't want to do that shit.
I've known people who have done it, and they do recommend it highly.
Oh my god! I don't know.
You know what though? Like, okay, so this is the thing though. Like, anybody who has a semi-stupid idea and then they do it, of course they're never gonna say it's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel stupid.
Yeah, I was told I couldn't bring my Switch in there, so I was like, I'm not interested.
Well, fuck it then. What's the point of that, man?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. What am I supposed to do? Sit there with my own thoughts?
Yeah, terrible.
Jesus.
Before we get started, a huge thank you and shout out to all our listeners, patrons, and those of you tuning in live on Twitch. It's tremendously appreciated, and if you like what you hear, it's even more appreciated to kindly leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. 5 stars, please. We've also got over 100 episodes and counting. If you feel like a deep dive yourself, we got a link tree at linktr.ee/regionfreegamers. And if you're curious, we do have a Patreon. And for a roll of holographic duct tape a month, I looked that up, you can access the patron-only Discord channel, and only a few dollars more can get you access to other goodies, like interacting and listening live as we record on Twitch, like now, and submitting requests and voting on what we cover. We also have a Discord, though, that is free for all, where you can see us all share and compliment each other's vinyl collections while disparaging each other's tastes in culture, Japanese animation. But all kidding aside,
Arnie.
All kidding aside, a big thanks again to the patrons and Discord members. The podcast is growing and going somewhere good every day, and we have you all to thank for it. Yeah. So thank you. Before we get started, though, it was just the most magical time of the year.
That's right.
Debating
the Steam
on
winter sale.
But the Steam winter sale. It was a beautiful time. In Gabe We Trust. But what the holidays did just go by. So let's talk about it. Did Santa bring anybody anything good, or it was just a bunch of fucking coal again?
I got sweet Toronto Raptors socks.
Nice.
I saw it. Oh, yeah. You shared those. Those are like elegant. They look like modern art.
I do like them,
absolutely.
but my excitement, again, and I will continue to say this, is tempered by the fact that you refuse to get any retro Raptors swag.
Well, you act as if like you've brought this up, and I just like backhanded you. Never,
Yes.
Arnie.
Yes.
I'm never going to get swag.
You disrespected the purple and red for too long.
Nah, man. If a retro Vince Carter jersey just suddenly made it into my wardrobe, then yes, I would happily wear that.
Yeah.
I won't be buying it myself though, man.
I think
like, dude, have you seen how much like officially licensed gear of any sport is? Like, goddamn, dude. I mean, like, I realize that I'm a hypocrite because, you know, I just like I spent $200 on fucking Xanac, a Japanese game for PS1, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not on a high horse here.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, god damn, dude, I can't.
Xanac, yeah, you're right. God damn. Great game.
I think I'm just bitter because, like, all the NBA, like, the NBA had my favorite logos, and now everything looks like it's a corporate business that, like, decided to minimize, like, be minimalist now with all their
dude. But come on, man, do we really need the old Houston Rockets?
Yes.
Jerseys with the pinstripes and the rocket
with the like mean rocket with the shark face on it. Absolutely. Instead of what? An R, a giant red R for rocket.
Anyhow, so got socks, and my sister-in-law got me a $45 gift card, which is like a kind of weirdly specific number, but we'll roll with it. So she got me a $45 gift card to the Nintendo eShop, which I immedially used to buy Boyfriend Dungeon, which I hope to play with Christy. We'll see what happens. She'll probably bounce off of it, but I'm hoping that, like, you know, the good-looking husbandos will lure her into the RPG genre. Right. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's cool. Arnie, what about you, man?
This was pretty low-key Christmas for me. I got a lot, like, I think my parents have sort of taken the approach that I appreciate the most, which is, like, they don't know what the fuck I want. They also don't know what the fuck I have. So they're just like, we're gonna just get you other shit. Like, we're gonna get you clothes, we're gonna get you shit that you don't have to spend money on the rest of the year, so you can buy the stuff you actually want. Which I'm like, that's great. I would much prefer that to you trying to guess what it is that I actually want and fucking it up anyway. But my mom did, she was like, you buy yourself one game and I'll pay for it. So I got Shin Megami Tensei 5 and I was like, I'm good.
Yay.
And then the other end of the spectrum, I spent Christmas with my girlfriend's family, and their tactic is actually quite interesting, which is that they'll find out one thing about you, and then everything will be related to that one thing.
Dude, that's happened to me, but please continue.
And so my
sounds
girlfriend,
like a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So my girlfriend's characteristic of choice for me apparently was that I enjoy whiskey, which I do. I drink it. I do tend to enjoy. I now have like 6 bottles of whiskey that I got for Christmas.
Hell yeah, man.
Oh my god, dude.
So that was very entertaining.
This happened to me like 20 years ago, right? I was dating this girl, and I knew her family. Like, it wasn't like they didn't know me or anything like that. And they asked her, like, you know, what do we get him for Christmas? And she just said, Simpsons anything. And like, I was flooded with Simpsons gear that Christmas. Like, I got the Simpsons, you know, the Grand Theft Auto Simpsons game for the PS2. I got Simpsons pajamas. I got like it was insane. And it reached the point where I was like, do you guys know anything else about me? Like, is this my defining characteristic? It's almost a little bit insulting. I've known you guys for a couple of years now.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I love thinking about them walking in and Paul's wearing all the merch, and they're like, damn, man. It's like, you're really into the Simpsons. You're really into the Simpsons, and you're like, don't have a cow, man. You know? And like, every time you come over, they're like, oh, Paul, could you pass the salt? You're like, cowabunga, dude. You know, like, passing it over. Or no, I caramba. I didn't even get it right. Fuck. God damn it.
Yeah, man, not one but two hoodies.
Ooh.
Two hoodies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It has to be
with
the-
Homer Simpson.
It has to be the old merch. Like that's what I mean is that like it's got to be like when Simpsons first started and they're getting all this bootleg stuff.
Yes, that's what I was
That's
gonna say.
better than bootleg.
Yeah.
Because like, sorry, Arnie.
No, that's fine.
But like my at the time, my girlfriend's aunt and uncle were notoriously cheap. I've never seen people so cheap in my life. Like very much saving money and so on and so forth. The Simpsons pajamas I got were a pair of like regular kind of Walmart pajamas, and what they did was they bought like a Duff Beer iron-on, and they ironed it on to the pajamas.
No.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and they gave that to me. And I was like, wow, this is fucking next level.
Whoa!
And could you tell like immediately, like?
Oh yeah, because there was no other defining kind of Simpsons
Branding on it.
characteristic. Yeah,
All
exactly.
of it was totally like misproportionate. So like some parts were covered in them, and other parts were like empty and sparse. And they're like, "Ah, shit, we ran out. Oh, we're not gonna get more." So,
Oh god, no! I was gonna say that's
man.
when Mike said bootleg. I was like, oh, I hope they got you like a shirt with like Bart like peeing on like the Fox logo or some stupid.
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Oh god, no.
Oh, it would have been so good.
But yeah, no, I got like a.
How about you, Mike? Sorry, Arnie. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. So I got whiskey bottles. I got like a whiskey infusion kit. I got like a bar set. I got, I was like, all right,
whiskey infusion kit.
Yeah.
Do you put it like in your deodorant so you smell like a bum wherever you go?
No. It's literally
Yeah.
like it's like a bottle making kit where you pour bourbon into it, and it comes with like different wood chips and like different flavors to like infuse into the whiskey.
If that works, it sounds fucking awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like dying to do it. Like I still haven't done it yet. But yeah. So I was walking out of there like bottles clanging together, like I just robbed a liquor store.
Or their house.
Yeah.
Or their house. Like somebody thought he just came over and grabbed all
And my
the
girlfriend
liquor
was like, look forward to however many years of this, like going forward, because this is the one thing they know about you now.
Oh,
dude, you're gonna become an alcoholic. Like it's guaranteed.
oh,
Mike,
man.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? What was Christmas like?
Man, mine's so much more boring in comparison. With me, basically what I do now is it's a long story, but basically my parents still like getting me stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they still are like, hey, we don't know what you want either. Not because we don't know what you like, but because we have no idea what you have and what you kind of want to get, because they understand the hunt. Like speaking of collecting last episode, they understand the hunt and how much fun it is to look for stuff. So they're like, we don't want to take that from you. So I still make them a list.
Good for you.
Just like when I was a little fucking kid. And basically, what I usually do is I go, okay, here are the games that you will find at a GameStop, hopefully for super cheap used, because I don't care, as long as it comes in a case. Yep. And these are games that I do want them. I definitely want them, but they're always the ones that there's millions of copies of, and I'm like, I'll get it later.
Yeah.
And so basically I got The Surge, which I had already played digitally, and I was excited to finally get. I got Little Nightmares. Finally found a physical finally found a physical copy of that with all the extra content. So I'm really happy about that. And what else? Oh yeah, Immortal Unchained, which is a terrible, janky. I should say terrible. Sorry, devs, if you're ever listening, but it's like a janky Souls-like with guns.
Oh, nice.
And it has one of my favorite glitches ever. When I was playing it on Xbox One, which I got rid of because it's notorious for working really badly. The opening cutscene has the character rising from this monolith. And he's chained up because it's Immortal Unchained. And he like wrestles against the chains and breaks the chains and then goes, ah! oh, like this with his arms up. And in the version I was playing on Xbox One, his model didn't load in, so you just saw the chains and nothing else rattle around, and then go snap, and there's this big music swell, and and there was just nobody there, and I was like, well, we're off to a really fucking good start. I was like, it's literally the beginning of the game. I was like, it's a great start. So I'm excited to play that. And also, Paul will be stoked. I got Raiden 4,
Nice.
the Mikado
right on.
remix on Switch. Played it, died within 30 seconds. Like, just didn't even, like, it was like nothing. I was like, well,
dude.
okay. Got to train.
Raiden's like a bit
practice.
of a slap in the face because the ship speed is so slow.
And the bullet speed is so fast. on
Yeah,
the
I
default.
know.
I'm
I
like,
know.
what? Yeah, so I'm going to have to practice on that bad boy, but I'm
Yeah.
glad I got it.
Oh, shout out to my Secret Santa for getting me Waifu Discovered, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Waifu Discovered 2 plus the DLC.
I mean,
I'm
how
not
you
gonna lie, dude. I saw that come up. I almost never look at what other people are doing on Steam.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know what I mean? But like I just happened, because there was someone on my friends list and I didn't know who it was. And so I went onto a different screen.
Oh, gotcha.
And then I saw like Arnold PR has bought Waifu Discovered and Waifu Discovered, and I was like, fuck yeah, man, he doesn't give a shit. Like this is just out there. Way to go.
How are you going to know what happens, though, if you haven't played one?
Listen, I think I can just watch an explainer on YouTube. I think there's a couple of long plays.
Yeah, there's probably probably a good couple dozen, at least.
Honestly, we joke. There's probably like 10,000 videos of people
there might
playing
be,
this
yeah.
game online.
Dude,
really
for
big.
sure.
It's a niche but dedicated audience.
It is a shmup get people naked game, which I was like, oh damn, they'll make this out of anything, man. Like, holy shit.
Wow, I thought it was like one of those tile puzzle games.
No, so if I remember correctly from the trailer, it's a shoot 'em up where basically the background is just a giant woman, one of like several giant women,
okay.
and as you progress through the level, you undress them, I believe, and
We got to get there.
It's one of those. It's one of in the style.
Yeah.
It's in the style of those like mahjong games from like the Neo Geo CD or whatever.
Yeah,
that just
bringing
has
back the Sega Saturn era.
Giant JPEG'd image of a woman in like 160p. It's like,
Yes.
congratulations. Here's your image.
Yeah, for a second. It
Yes.
just like shows it for a second. That's over, and you're like,
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
damn it. If only I had some kind of digital camera.
Taking a picture of your giant CRT,
Yeah.
like taking a picture on hopefully not a disposable camera that you then go to take develop at Walgreens or something.
Hey, Mike, here's a question for you.
Yeah,
Did you ever
shoot.
record gameplay on VHS?
Oh God.
No. I did take a couple photos of my CRT, like on Atari 2600 and stuff when we got a high score.
Yeah,
I did do that.
Were you trying to get those little patches they would mail you if you sent them your?
We never mailed away from them, but I would have got there are a few of us. There are a few we would have gotten for sure.
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to get into that because talk about it forever.
Yeah.
But definitely Frostbite. I would have killed that shit. I would have been like, give me my Arctic Explorer's badge, David Crane. Come on.
All I remember about that is people talking about how like much of a pain in the ass it was to actually get a picture of your screen that like showed what was on it.
Yeah. It was such a difficult time. I don't know how we made it through. But, yeah. Oh man. Okay.
All right.
On that note of traveling somewhere else than here, into a different world. So today we're going to be talking about something a little off the beaten path. We're talking about altered reality games, ARGs. Now, there are a few things that we have to kind of distinguish here, because it does get a little muddly, because some of you might be thinking, ARGs, doesn't that stand for augmented reality games? And it also stands for that, but those are actually two different things, and we're going to sort of get into that right now, because it's a little complicated.
I'm already lost. I thought we were talking about augmented reality.
No, we're talking about altered reality.
No.
Games.
That's great. Okay. I know what we're talking about. I just ascribed the incorrect label to it.
Augmented reality is what Pokemon Go does, Paul.
Yes. So,
praise Pokemon Go.
Basically,
that's right.
Yeah. So basically, the definition of an altered reality game, I'll give you the official definition. It's kind of nebulous by design, though, which is hilarious when you think about it. It's like, here's the official definition, but there's some leeway. It's like, wait, okay, what?
If you dig a little further.
Yeah, if you dig a little further, so an interactive, this is the big words, interactive network narrative that uses the real world as a platform and employs transmedia storytelling to deliver a story that may be altered by players' ideas or actions. And that last part is really important. So basically, it's kind of like, these are defined by intense player involvement with a story. It takes place in real time and it evolves according to player responses. Okay.
I'm feeling a lot of synergy in this definition.
Yeah. So there's game designers on one side who kind of create this game and this universe and this reality for people to interact with. But the idea is that the big idea that this tries to get across is that it's not being controlled by an AI. It's not being controlled by a computer. It's being controlled by real people who are reacting to how people are interacting with the puzzle and what they're solving. So that's kind of, that's one of the main differences. It's funny because at first I thought, the difference between augmented reality and altered reality is like, well, like Pokemon Go, you have to use your phone, but it's like, you have to use your phone for all kinds of alternate reality stuff too. So like, it really is that give and take, because Pokemon Go is not a give and take, right? It's telling you what to go do. This is the game. These are the rules. Go do that. It's controlled by, an AI and an algorithm is saying, oh, okay, these meters are going up. You're progressing here. Yeah. Whereas with an alternate reality game, it's using stuff like, it uses stuff like multimedia, like telephones, email, mainly relies on the internet. But as we are going to see, it does also kind of use video games as its own medium too. But again, it's always this idea of it is changing, it is adapting in real time based on the designers behind it and the players who are playing.
Gotcha.
So they tend to be free to play. With the costs absorbed either through the supporting products. So, for example, like it could be a collectible card game similar to something like Perplex City, or through promotional relationships with existing products. So, fancy way of saying it's promoting something. And I think that's the one that most of us know probably the best. And we kind of know them as these really cool publicity stunts. So, that happens with all kinds of stuff. Like they did one for Lost. The Lost experience, and they did some for, things like, we might get a chance to talk a little bit about it, but I don't want to get too into it because it's not games, but, the Why So Serious campaign for The Dark Knight, and there was one for AI, that was one of the earliest ones, so they kind of do that too. But again, there are sort of pay-to-play models that exist as well, like we'll get into, like the Black Watchmen. So the thing that kind of gives you like a little bit of a background on it, hopefully. There are some words that, you're going to see a lot of when you're kind of looking up this stuff and doing research on it that you might want to know a little more about if this kind of thing seems interesting to you. I kind of like some of the unique terminology they have. They talk about puppet master. So the puppet master, or a PM.
Metallica's Master of Puppets.
I guess so, yeah. So not a DM, a PM.
That's right.
That's the person who's involved in designing and running the ARG. So they're simultaneously kind of allies, but also adversaries, because again, it's a lot like a DM. Like they're kind of like acting off of the players and what they're doing. They create obstacles. They remain behind the curtain, which I love. That's the next term, while the game is going. The real identity of the puppet masters may or may not be known ahead of time. So they do that too. The curtain is, a metaphor for the separation between the puppet masters and the players, obviously.
Yeah.
So what I think is cool about this is that it can be kind of the traditional way of using it, where it's like, okay, we're hiding the puppet masters' identities and their involvement with the production. But it could also just kind of refer to the fact that it's like, okay, we're not communicating directly with players. Instead, we're kind of acting through the characters and the design and things like that. There's the idea of the rabbit hole, which you'd see a lot if you start watching a little bit about it or you're talking to people who play these games. The rabbit hole, the trailhead, and that's the term that they use for the first media artifact, whether it's the website, whether it's a contact or a puzzle or whatever it is that kind of draws players in. And they usually have a whole, usually the people doing the ARGs, the puppet masters, have a bunch, and they kind of spread them all around to try to drag in as many people as possible. So think like Neo following the White Rabbit, but more specifically, for anybody who remembers, the biggest example that's coming to me right now is when Tron Legacy came out. They did that whole Flynn Lives, and all of a sudden people were wearing Flynn Lives t-shirts, and there were Flynn Lives graffiti kind of popping up around around the world, and everybody was like, Flynn Lives, what the hell is that? Like, what does that mean? Like, and it's done in these old school like Tron 80s letters. And so then they Google it, and then they find a website, and then like, so that's kind of what it's supposed to get you interested. And the last kind of term you hear a lot is TNAG. Well, no, I mean, I just say this is not a game, but and I'm honestly gonna bring this up because I think it's interesting. So the idea is that this is popularized by the players themselves, by the way. The idea is that one of the main goals of the ARG is to deny and disguise the fact that it's even a game at all, which I find interesting because it's kind of like, as we're going to get into, it's really obvious with some of these games, they go out of their way to kind of make sure that it is a game. Yeah. That they're like, hey, look, like it's not, like it's an interesting balance is what I'm saying.
So you don't go out and try to murder the puppet master.
Yeah, or, that's what I think is so interesting is that it's really clear by a lot of the games at the same time at the same time that they're going, it's not a game, it's totally a game, dude. Like,
of course.
It's like they're doing that at the same time. So it's kind of really interesting how they marry that so that it still feels fun and that you're not getting kind of bogged down all the time. And also, I think it's funny that the fans are saying this because, as we'll see, man, the fans of these things are so hardcore and they love puzzles so much that to me it seems like, well, they would have to know it's a game. They have to treat it like it's a game because they just love puzzles. Like it's not even about necessarily the world. I like, as much as I think they're like, I can't wait to go on this adventure, I also think it's, holy shit, dude, I just want to solve all these like really difficult puzzles because that's the fun part for me. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's interesting. Any questions so far? There will be a test.
If I could provide, perhaps, because this is something that I think many of our listeners may not even be familiar with. You can also compare it, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I had like a couple of years ago, I went to do an escape room, right? And it wasn't just like, here's some puzzles, go to town. It was like a whole story, and there were actors that we interacted with, one of whom was wearing an eerily realistic dog mask. He looked like a pug, and he was talking in a really high-pitched voice. And it was like, there's almost a suspension of disbelief there.
Yeah.
And you just kind of solve puzzles to progress the story. That might be something a little bit similar. However, the alternate reality games that you're talking about, way more in depth and long lasting.
Yeah, way more ambitious than that stuff, but it does the connection there. I associate it more with escape room type stuff as well, because that's something I've done a number of times.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting is that, and by the way, I don't think nobody's out there being like the ARG police. Like, no one's going, that's not augmented, that's alternate. Like, no one's yelling at each other about it.
I think that you should caveat that, because I believe if I go on any one of these Reddit forums, I'll definitely find somebody who's
there
like,
will be somebody at your door.
That's true. Yeah. No. That's true. I more mean that, like, the idea is that it makes perfect sense. Like, I had them completely backwards too.
Yeah.
Like, the idea is that as long as you understand that, like, this is more than a game.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's more than just kind of sitting down. Like, you need to get up and kind of do things. And, you know, as long as you kind of get on that train, and then it's just kind of like you extend that, you know, understanding a little bit more. Like, I think that's, you know, that's what's important. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're still kind of like, what the hell is it? Don't worry. Like, it kind of, it's the kind of thing that makes more sense the more you kind of look at it.
Yeah.
So really quick, before we get into kind of, you know, sort of what those are, just to reiterate, they're not video games, okay? Because even though they might use some of the same techniques, they're not controlled by algorithms. They're not controlled by the computer. They're not technically tabletop RPGs and LARPing, okay? Because they don't have, again, there's no fixed rules. Like, that's kind of the important thing to remember, because those games have fixed rules, okay? They have, like, an architecture. And yes, there's a lot of player expression within that, but you gotta, like, with alternate reality games, they just kind of throw the puzzles out there and people can solve them kind of however they want. You know, like, there are rules. There are sometimes, you know, things put in place to be like, okay, you need to go do this in order to do that. But how people accomplish all this stuff is like, there's much less rules for that. It's also not strictly just for viral marketing. I mean, there's kind of, you know, there's kind of obviously lots of examples of that already, where it's not like, okay, this isn't just a plug something, but it's also not viral marketing in the sense that even when it's something that's promoting a product, there is usually very clear written and unwritten rules with the puppet masters that they're like, we can't plug the product, we can't refer to the product, we can't, like, you know, push anything, we can't do anything that kind of inadvertently pushes players to where they need to go. Everything has to be very kind of passive, okay? Like, nothing can be in your face, okay?
Yeah.
So there's that too. And the last one is that it's not augmented reality. It's not Pokemon Go. It's not like Zombies Run, where it's because, again, those things are kind of clearly in the game itself, and, you know, it's about filling up a meter. It's about doing the thing the computer's telling you to. Yeah. So now that we've kind of made all these distinctions, I think that's a lot. Okay, for people to sort of chew on for now. But don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this. Thank you for coming with me on this altered reality journey. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and when we get back, we're going to dig in a little deeper and start with some examples.
Yep.
And we're back. We're talking about alternate reality games, and we've just gone over, you know, we went over the academic side of it, and now we're going to get into some examples of it, and this is where it gets spicy. So what's interesting is, just like the definition, it's also kind of up for debate, and it's sort of tough to narrow down what is kind of accepted as the first official alternate reality game. But a lot of people basically say that it's Majestic. So Majestic was created by Neil Young It debuted on July 31st, all the way back in 2001. It didn't do well, unfortunately, even though it did get a lot of praise for its concept and critically. It didn't do well commercially. In a nutshell, though, basically what it was a science fiction thriller based on Majestic 12, which is a shadow government conspiracy theory that maybe some of our more enlightened people on the stream know about. But basically, it was played by phone, email, and AOL Instant Messenger.
That's right, baby.
And BlackBerry messages, and by fax, and by visiting special websites. And that will tell you, hopefully will give you a little bit of insight, especially for the older listeners, like, oh man, that was a long time ago.
Really put you in
that was
in the in a time and place.
Yeah. And
I have a question, Mike.
Please go ahead.
Just a quick question. When you say this game was created by Neil Young, you are not referring to Canadian American singer-songwriter.
First thing I am not.
Okay.
I am not talking about legendary Canadian singer-songwriter Neil Young, unfortunately. I am not talking about him.
Okay.
Wouldn't put it past him, though. But basically, so players would sign up and they would receive clues that they would use to solve puzzles and unravel a story. All the messages were automated. There were limited dialogue options, but AIM provided some interactive conversations, so aka AOL Instant Messenger.
No, Mom, I can't come down to dinner. I'm talking to the Majestic 12 right now.
Talking to Majestic 12. So what I love this little note. So as an option to warn unsuspecting members in the same house, you could enable a warning at the beginning of each phone call and a message at a fax saying, "This is a phone call from the video game Majestic," before the regular pre-recorded message, which I love.
Yeah, just
in my house would have to happen, and even still would lead to massive confusion.
Yep. I know, it's so good.
Can't imagine my mom trying to call the police on
right
immediately.
Yeah, no,
immediately
they would have freaked out. They would have freaked out because again, remember 2001. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is PS2 era. Okay, that this is happening. It would have blowing your mind. So this is about a fake studio, AnimX. Okay, it was basically they were the creators of Majestic and promotional videos, and they were led by these two fictional lead developers, Brian Cale and Mike Griffin. And the story begins with Cale's death and the destruction of the AnimX offices. And then players would receive an email, in quotes, from EA regarding the official shutdown. And
that's the scariest part of the whole thing so far.
I know, exactly. Yeah. EA reaching out to you. So obviously this was only part of the fictional storyline.
Yeah.
And then you basically find out what happened. So it's funny, we were talking just pre-stream, Paul brought this up, but Majestic was inspired by the game. Which was a 97 movie with Michael Douglas that kind of features something like an ARG in it, which was about sort of confusing the character, and so they never kind of know whether this is part of the game or this is real or not.
Yeah. Oh, can I drop my Michael Douglas factoid that I promised you guys?
Absolutely.
So
we've been waiting.
Also, just to preface that Michael Douglas, you can't sue me because this is all true, even if I get some of it wrong. So Michael Douglas, I think in like the 2000s, like the 2010s, I think he got cancer, like throat cancer. And at some point, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, but at some point somebody, I can't remember if he was doing an interview or what the deal was, but he basically claimed that the reason he got throat cancer was because he was performing too much cunnilingus on his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I think I do remember this.
Oh, God, he died doing what he loved.
Yeah.
I think he's still alive.
Yes, he is.
No, he is.
Yeah, he's still totally alive.
Speaking of getting sued.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one thing that I always think about with Michael Douglas now, because it's the most insane thing I think I've ever heard anybody say ever.
It's
Dude,
pretty,
only someone who had cancer could give that kind of that is like the most zero fucks given answer in an interview I think I've ever heard, honestly.
Yeah.
But also throwing your wife like severely under the bus on that one, like indirectly just blaming her for your cancer.
Indirectly.
Yeah.
They are still
dude.
married,
You know how many
though.
jokes I'm leaving on the table because this is,
Wildly
ostensibly a family-friendly
inappropriate.
podcast.
Yeah.
Family-friendly, but with swearing.
So, on that note,
Yeah.
no, I have no idea how to segue back into it. I'm gonna do it anyway. So basically, Majestic. So Majestic.
You could say that Michael Douglas was engaging in his own alternate reality.
Correct. A majestic alternate reality at that. So there were 5 episodes in that first season. Unfortunately, season 4 canceled before season 2, as we already know. Didn't do that well, unfortunately. But a little bit more about what the game was, because again, this will kind of reinforce what sort of it's about and why everybody kind of took from it. So basically, there's a small application. It was PC only. There's a small application named the Majestic Alliance application, and it served as a friends list and to stream music related to whatever web page or section of the game you were at. So different web pages in different parts of the game triggered different music.
That's really
cool.
was
kind of I thought that was kind of neat. Like, sort of like made like kind of like set the tone and stuff like that. So when playing the first time, the game would randomly select other players who were at the same level as the player and added them to the Majestic Alliance application as their allies. So that let all people who were at the same spot in the mystery be able to sort of talk to each other.
Definitely something that could not be done now. Like, you're forcibly putting people in that I have to interact with now. They're just going to yell at me and call me a fucking loser.
Yeah, I know. Like, fighting games? What? No. So the game took place in real time. So if a character said they would contact the player the next day, they would. Which is, again, nuts. Like, when you think about it, it's like, okay, cool. Like, we're gonna actually have somebody doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I think of the overhead there. It's amazing to me.
Like,
oh my goodness,
the thing about this is that this blows my mind only because, and I can't like highlight this enough, that like in 2001 I was 10.
Yeah.
Like a couple years after that, no, even when I was 10, I think I was still doing like MSN Messenger and stuff, and I can't overemphasize how scared my mother was that I would meet a person on the internet. So the idea that somebody would just call my house at like a predetermined time of day and I would just be like, I'm talking to the man from the internet. She would have fucking flipped her shit. Like, she would have killed me.
Meanwhile, we're walking to school by ourselves every day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, there's just this disproportionate fear. But I mean, that's media reporting and so on and so forth.
So what's cool is that the game was meant to be played casually. So in order to keep, again, I love this. This is kind of like, it's in the design. It's not a bug. It's a feature. In order to keep the player from going through all of the content like right away, which obviously people would do, your progress was limited. Yeah. So once you did a certain amount of things, it said, okay, now you're on standby.
Yeah, it's Ness's dad in real life.
I love that. It's like, you're on standby now.
It's like, oh, son, you seem to have played a lot today.
Yeah. And I mean, can we, like, just to sort of ask really quick, I mean, I think we all already know the answer, but I do think it's still worth bringing up. Like, why do we think Majestic didn't work out, and why do we think its tale isn't really known? Like, I didn't know about Majestic. I didn't know, you know, and I would have been absolutely the target audience. I would have been, 21. I would have been pretty, like, relatively tech savvy. So I would have been all over this, but I had never heard of it. And do we think it was like, was it just way too ahead of its time? Do we think it was too expensive? It was $10 a month. I kind of do it. I mean, that is
steep. I didn't realize that you had to pay that much. But I think my thing with it is that, like with anything that sort of is the first of whatever it's doing, I think that it's hard for people to like sort of make heads or tails of it. I think there's probably a lot of people who jump in and are kind of like, this doesn't really fit in the box of like what I think of as a game. and it's kind of hard for me to like stick with it, especially because like they limit your progress. I could see a lot of people just playing it a few times and then being like, I don't want to wait until tomorrow to like,
yeah, dude,
it
sounds like the Simpsons gag where Homer calls for the picks for gambling on sports and the phone is taking forever. And he's like, why is this taking so long? It's costing me money. And you know what I mean?
This is why you get Simpsons swag all the time for Christmas.
I know. This is why you got all the Simpsons swag all the time, man. You're walking right
But I mean, it's so perfect. It's an example.
I caramba.
But like $10 a month, but like you can't finish it within the month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of, I think that might have actually been the biggest reason, along with what Arnie said. It's tough to say, but I definitely agree with Arnie. Like, there are countless examples of concepts like this that were just ahead of their time, right? Like, people hadn't wrapped their heads around it, or the execution was flawed, and then World of Warcraft comes around and perfects it, and then there you go. Right?
Oh.
So I think that's kind of what we're looking at with Majestic, unfortunately, which is too bad because like it's a very, this is heady stuff, man. This is high concept.
For its time, it was like, this is pretty experimental.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild.
I could see someone, watching the X-Files and then turning around and being like, now it's time to do it for real.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get there. Oh, we're getting there. So this brings us to, I mean, it's the elephant in the room when it comes to ARGs, and it's I Love Bees. So this is kind of the big one that pretty much put them on the map, and it was because it was associated with Halo 2.
Oh, that's a video game. I know that.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I don't know. You might have heard of it. But basically, the thing with Halo 2 is that, and it's funny because like I had forgotten how much of a big deal it was.
I don't remember this
me too.
at all.
It was like there was a ton of hype about it because Halo 1 had just kind of exploded, and so there was just all this massive hype for Halo 2, and it was before everyone knew how Halo 2 ended. By the way, I love Halo 2. It's amazing. You can fight me on that. So anybody talks back, whatever. But
man, you're right though. It was
a big
huge.
Deal. Yeah,
like
it was a really big deal.
That video you sent where we're watching footage of the launch and all the marketing leading up to it. Dude, there were boys in that line. They looked like in the lineup for Halo 2, and it looked like they were young girls at a boy band concert in the front row, just like swooning. You know what I mean? This,
absolutely.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I remember all the hype up to it. This I Love Bees thing, it's recessed in my memory, and I can't like access the file. Like I don't remember any of this. I remember the thing I most remember was whoever was presenting it. I don't know if it was Phil Spencer or somebody else, when they like roll up their sleeve to like reveal their like Halo 2 tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I remember that.
So basically I Love Bees starts, and it was created by 42 Entertainment, and if you look up ARGs, you're gonna see that name a lot. Okay, they're basically the same team, not the same people all the time, but the same team that was behind the one for AI titled The Beast. And they're also behind some other ones we're going to get into that are related to games. But this is interesting. So I Love Bees, commissioned by Microsoft, which makes sense since they were Halo 2's publisher and Bungie's parent company at the time. So it was first advertised by Hidden Message in a Halo 2 trailer, as in that was the first time that people in the public could see it in a public place, because before that the only thing that had happened was a bunch of press people and people who had been involved in ARGs had been sent a jar of honey that had a label that was missing a website address. And if you looked inside the jar, you had letters, and if you mixed them in an anagram, it said, I Love Bees. And so that's how people knew to go to the website. So the Halo 2 trailer showing it there, that was kind of this confirmation for these fans that, oh God, like this is real. It's tied to Halo 2. This is a real thing. And, you know, and that was kind of, it was interesting because I wonder sometimes, like, was that all on purpose or not? That it was kind of like, okay, like, let's go. It's go time. But basically you would go to the website, ilovebees, and it appeared to be a website dedicated to honey sales and to beekeeping. Fittingly.
Of course.
But when you go, and you can still go, okay,
Yes.
to this day, it's still up.
It works.
Okay?
Yeah.
It works. So if you go now, though, it's confused, or even at the time, but especially now, it's covered in confusing random characters, sentence fragments, and all this stuff. And basically, it was originally supposed to be, if you sort of dig through, there's a person named Dana. She was the webmaster. She created a weblog, basically saying something has gone wrong with her website.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Dana is the person that the webmaster hired to fix the website.
Yes.
Sorry about that. And so basically, there's all these messages from Dana, if you go to the website, basically saying, I don't know what's wrong with this website. Please help me. There's something weird happening. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay. And, you know, I think it's been hacked, blah, blah, blah. And so basically that was, again, this is sort of the rabbit hole, the beginning of the rabbit hole of everybody trying to figure out what's going on. And so the gameplay...
I wish I could outsource my work problems to random people.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to give, I don't want to get too into the lore because holy crap, it could take forever because it's very convoluted, very complicated. But essentially, it's about a marooned artificial intelligence that's stranded on Earth, and it's trying to kind of put itself back together. That's kind of what it's about. And so it's hacked this website, and that's why the website's acting all weird, and there's all these really weird, cryptic, and sometimes kind of sinister and creepy messages on it. But what's interesting is that, like, and again, I'm not going to go into it because it's going to be crazy, but it gets to this point where, okay, the AI is splintered into different AI, and some of them are working with each other, and some of them are working against each other, and there's a rogue AI that's trying to stop them, and it's all from this time travel schism thing that happened during a warp drive malfunction in Halo 2, and it's like, wait, what? Like, it's crazy. Okay, it's really crazy.
That's the first time you've mentioned any connection to Halo 2. Like, at this point,
exactly,
I'm like,
right.
Yeah. I think I like this because it's, like you said, it's somehow promoting the game without promoting the game at all. Like, it's
exactly
on the face of it. If you just stumble, like, if for some reason you were like, oh, I love bees, I wonder if other people on the internet love bees, and you type in I love bees, and you're like, oh wow, you could experience an entire story and have no idea that, like, there's a video game involved in this at all.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's kind of the point, like Mike was saying earlier, like the altered reality game has to kind of make a point of not mentioning, when it is used as promotional material, it has to mention that it's not promotional material. Until, I mean, at some point, obviously, it has to be associated with it. But at first...
But at least this isn't like,
idea.
oh, this is Master Chief's beekeeping blog that he kept while he was fighting the Covenant. You know?
No, exactly.
That would be a great mini game.
It would.
No, shake my head at that. Shake my head. So basically, part of the gameplay, because again, I don't want to get into all of it, but part of the gameplay, it tasks players around the world to work together to solve problems. So the probably the famous example is that the game, presented players with 210 pairs of global positioning systems, coordinates, and time codes, but no indication to what those locations refer to. Okay, stuff on a map. So players eventually figured out, and I love this because all of these sites and all the videos and everything, they just say, yeah, they eventually figured it out. And I'm like, how? You know, but like,
it's like one of those, it's like one of those drawing tutorials where it's like, draw a circle, draw another circle. You should now have completed your character. It's like a epic anime sketch.
So they eventually figured out the coordinates referred to payphones.
You're gonna have to explain this to the listeners, like what the fuck a payphone is.
Oh, right. Okay, so payphones and when the phones would ring. Okay, and so a payphone, before everyone had phones, if you needed to make a phone call and you weren't in a building with someone who would let you use their phone, whether it was a residence or a business, you had to go to a payphone and you either had to press 0 to get an operator who would,
God, I forgot about that.
Who would, for money that you would pay later, okay, send a call to somebody, and they would either have to accept the charges themselves or defer it back to you.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know you could put phone calls on layaway like that.
The best part, Paul, do you remember? Sorry, I'm getting off topic. The best part is that they would let you record a message to tell the person, because if you're just some stranger, you're like, can you please accept this call charge? You're gonna be like, no. And so you had to record a message to let the person know who it was. And so it would always be like, it's me, Mike, please take the charge, and then it would like cut off really fast.
Yeah, there was a famous you just reminded me, Mike, that there was a really famous commercial that I don't know if you guys remember, where this guy is like in the hospital and his child's just been born or something, and he gets on a payphone and he's doing the record a message thing for like, I think it's his like father-in-law or something, but he's like, daughter was born, she's like 10 pounds, her name is Christy, like blah blah blah, and he like tried to fit all the things he wants to say in the message so he doesn't have to accept the charge.
Oh my god, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
I'll track that one down.
When we were teenagers, in order to be assholes, and we found lots of ways to be assholes because we were teenagers. Of course, we used to just like randomly collect calls from payphones to people and see if they would accept.
Oh, that's hilarious!
Brave New World. So just be like, Brave New World.
Just be like, hi, it's Paul. and every once in a while they would accept. I'm like, what are you doing? why are you accepting a collect call from some teenager in a subway station?
This God. Dumb. But get to the best part of my favorite part of the story, Mike.
Okay, so basically, I love that what this was called was Axons. So they called them, the website would say Axons Go Hot. And that was when people knew, okay, we got to be there. That's when Axons Go Hot. And then it happened. It really happened. People started standing outside and the phone would ring, like at a payphone, which again, for the time, that's nuts.
Yeah,
okay?
demented.
That would have been crazy. Like if the excitement you would feel as a fan, and you work this out, and then you go and you're like, you're just sitting there, you're like, this is stupid. What the fuck am I doing here, man? Like this is it, and all of a sudden it rings. You'd be like, oh my god, like, and just grabbing it. And so basically, the phone calls were made by live people. They weren't pre-recorded. Like Wild. It was a real person talking to them and interacting with them. And basically the person would ask them questions, and sometimes it would be like really serious, sometimes it'd be funny, and it would just be kind of like ripping off and on. The famous story though is that one guy in Florida, because of course it was Florida. So one guy in Florida, he stayed by the phone during Hurricane Francis as it was like minutes away.
King.
And basically to stay there. And as they were talking, when the operator realized what was happening, she broke character and was like, dude, get out of there, it's a hurricane. Like she kind of broke character.
Shame on them, honestly.
Which is hilarious. I mean, like, it's just so funny that it's like that they made a note to say they broke character. Yeah. It's like, come on, like, what is kayfabe, like, shit? Like,
no, shame on them for breaking character. That man knew what he was doing.
No way,
he accepted
man.
the risks.
Dude, she heard her legal department running towards her office.
No, what are you doing? So basically they had to do hundreds of these. There were 777 total that they had to do to kind of fill up this bar on this metaphorical bar on the website.
Yeah.
And then when they did, they were all rewarded with an invitation basically to several different installations that had the game playing on cinemas. So they would go to a cinema and they would get to play the game early. They were called on their cell phones or messaged via email for this. And which is like when you think, and they were also given this cool commemorative DVD, which I'm sure is super fucking expensive now.
I'm sure it costs
and rare, that has every single one of the recordings of not just of the audio of the kind of quote unquote audio drama that was playing that you could find on the website.
Do they have the Hurricane
you can
Francis
still find
guy?
it.
You could probably.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Wind's really picking up over here.
And so basically, like, talk about a cool thank you, a cool way to sort of like create this whole experience, give it to people, end it off. Not to mention, obviously, I know some cynical people in the room are going to be like, well, yeah, I mean, it was just to plug Halo 2. And it was like, yeah, it was, but they didn't have to. They didn't have to do all that, and so it gave back to a bunch of people, and I think that's why it's cool.
Yeah, I like that it had a payoff. Like, I like that they were rewarded for doing the whole thing, instead of it just being like, oh, you finished, a splash screen that's like, Halo 2 comes out, whatever.
Yeah, that could have been really shitty.
Yeah.
And I think you can still find the audio drama online.
You can.
It's like
you can
5.5
online.
hours of story.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I meant the DVD itself, but
I know you did. I'm just allowed.
Somewhere out there's a guy that watches that whole thing before he plays Halo 2 every time.
Well,
5.5 hours of story.
Interesting. It's interesting you say that, because apparently originally it wasn't canon.
Yes.
Originally it wasn't canon. It wasn't directly related to anything that was happening in official canon. Bungie didn't have. I don't think Bungie had anything to do with the actual writing of it and the creation of it, because they were making Halo 2.
Sure, yeah.
But later on though, it was officially embraced as canon by Bungie themselves. They officially were like, we love ilovebees, like, we love the work they did. We want it as part of canon. So like now it's considered canon.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Oh.
And I mean, this leads us to, let's talk about 42 Entertainment again for our next little example. And this, I had no idea. I had no idea that this existed. And it shows you again how it's kind of like, like some ARGs get more clout than others, and it depends on the property. But there was an ARG for Gun, which was a Neversoft game. And 42 Entertainment did the ARG for this as well. It's called Last Call Poker. This one, I don't think, in some ways, not nearly as sort of epic, I guess, but in another way, I just like a really cool idea, like a really interesting idea. I think unlike something like ilovebees, this one, it does fit kind of tonally and sort of conceptually, but it doesn't feel quite as epic. But essentially what it was the rabbit hole was an actual working poker website that you could go to and you could play. And the idea is that you would go and you would start playing against people, but basically every so often at the game, mysterious characters, you'd be playing against other people online, but every so often as you're playing, these mysterious characters would show up and interact with you, and they would basically be dead people, sort of like the ghosts of cowboys kind of coming back. And this website was funded by a deceased millionaire. This is the story, Lionel Lucky Brown. And it was linked to these pre-order card deck bonuses for Neversoft and for Gun. But basically, what I think is so cool about this is that what they ended up doing is through the website, they tell this whole story of kind of betrayal and backstabbing and back and forth and stolen gold and all these kind of classic tropey Western issues. And they kind of deal with all that stuff and tell this whole story. And it culminated with these actual games of Tombstone Hold'em in person, where they would have coordinates on the site, and people would go to graveyards and cemeteries around. I think it was mostly in North America, but I think there might have even been some spots outside of North America. But basically, people would go and they would play Texas Hold'em. Okay, or in this case,
see you, Mom, heading down to the local graveyard to play poker against some randoms.
Yeah, and
against
in this
the
case,
internet, man.
Yeah, Tombstone Hold'em. Sorry, not Texas Hold'em. And so basically, yeah, and so this is what they would do. And so you would play free to play poker because it wasn't, you know, the website wasn't, it didn't cost anything. So you play free to play poker, and basically the winners would get a chance to play a special game against these ghosts and stuff, and they would kind of volunteer info. And it's the scale. It's the fact that there was over 29 different characters involved in this whole thing, and you had to know who all of them were. Sometimes they would pop up in random games too, like I was saying before. And all of this culminated with, you know, everybody kind of going to the last game of Tombstone Hold'em and meeting these characters who were all actors, obviously dressed up and stuff, and telling the story and getting to the, you know, so it's kind of it's wild.
I have this like just searing image in my mind of like a family pulling up to a cemetery to like mourn, you know, their uncle or whatever, and just seeing like a man dressed up as a ghost cowboy playing cards with like 10 other people there.
I know, it's so like it's. I wonder about this. Like, I wonder how it seems like, you know, from people talking about it, seems like it was a really cool, positive thing and people had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, like I bring it up because it did give me pause. I was kind of like, I don't know, man, graveyard, cemetery, you know, like it's not quite Shadow Man 2 put the shadow mask on a tombstone level of bad. But, you know, it's there somehow. But again, God, you know, 42 Entertainment strikes again.
Yeah. No, it sounds sick. Like, I would have definitely done it if I had known about it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's one of the questions I definitely want to get into is if you guys think you would do some of these.
Oh,
you know,
I mean, this
actually
one,
do them. You know?
This one strikes me as more accessible.
Yeah.
Because, you know, kind of... almost everybody knows how to play poker. It doesn't require crazy sleuthing, puzzle solving skills. You just kind of, you just kind of figure it out as you go. And I don't know. It's definitely, you're right, Mike. A little bit smaller in scale, and obviously the game has to do with that as well.
Yeah.
But very interesting idea.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what like the time frame for this was, because like the mid 2000s were like a poker boom. Like, it became
I wonder if it happened
like
before
years.
the poker boom.
I would assume like around 2005, 2006 sounds right for like when like the World Series of Poker like became like a ESPN thing that you had to watch every
It might have
day.
even been 2003.
Yeah, something like whatever Chris Moneymaker or whatever his name was.
That's the man.
Won, and everybody was like, he's just a nerd from like California or whatever. Like anybody can play poker.
Oh my God, the perfect man with the perfect name at the perfect time.
That's right.
I've like, it's so rare that happens like that, but boy, oh boy.
So that's Last Call Poker for Gun. We're going to take a little bit of a break now before we get back to a couple more examples, and then kind of discuss some of these kind of greater examples and sort of whether we do them or not and what we think the future is for this stuff. We'll be right back. And we're back, and we're talking about examples of altered reality games, and that specifically have to do with video games, or even are video games, as we'll get into with our last example. But there's one that I really want to go in depth with, similar to my little rant on Fear Effect, and that is the one for Portal. Okay, because this is where so far we've kind of talked about it, and you've probably got a little bit of an idea of how intricate this stuff gets and how complex it can get. But in a second, I'm going to get to a specific example from Portal. Just one. Okay, just one example. And we'll kind of see how, you know, pardon the cliche, but we'll see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Okay, and how dedicated these people are. So to set the stage a little bit, at 2:33 p.m. exactly PST on March 1st on 2010, the first update to Portal was made. The first, update to the first Portal was made. There was a description in the update notes that said changed radio transmission frequency to comply with federal and state spectrum management regulations. That also had an additional achievement that said transmission received. When you play Portal, there's a total of 26 radios. This is where it starts. Everybody's laughing already because this is so
insane.
So there's 26 radios, including the ones that are already present before the update in the test chamber. So there's 26 radios. They're always in an area that's more or less difficult to find. Okay, but you can find it by hearing the music that's playing. Okay, in the game, and there was already examples of this. You can find this online. People would find, there's like a little crack in the wall there. I wonder if I could shoot a portal in there. And then they could. And then they would go in and they would find the radio.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, in-game, the radio has to be moved to a particular spot in the test chamber. And when you do that, the music is scrambled by interference. Then there's a Morse code or data transmission sounds that are heard, and the red sprite, the light on the radio turns green. Now, this is in each test chamber. You have to find all the radios, you have to unlock all the transmissions, and then that gives you the achievement. Great, cool. Okay, now what? So basically, what happened was all of those sounds can be found in a folder titled Ambient in the Portal sound file. All of them have the prefix dinosaur, for some reason. I don't know, whatever.
Just your like parent and or partner walking into your room. You look like fucking Charlie Day from like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Red string everywhere. You're smoking like 10 cigarettes at once. I've got it.
We haven't even started. So when it goes, basically all of these through Morse code, they can be viewed in SSTV software and in Morse code, and they show images. And then basically these dinosaur images are images that are cut into 4 pieces, and they each have an alphanumeric highlighted or circled, digit highlighted or circled, and each with a number from 1 to 32 in the bottom right. If you put them in the order given, it makes this giant string of alphanumeric characters. This is an MD5 hash encrypted code of a BBS number that is registered to an unpublished landline in Kirkland, in a suburb where Valve was founded in Seattle. Okay, all right, we're still going. Okay, you ready? You still with me here? So
I'm having an aneurysm while you're talking to me.
So a BBS, if some people don't know, it's a predecessor to the internet. Yeah. Okay, it was popular from the late 70s to the mid 90s, and you would connect to a terminal program using a phone line, and you could download and upload software and send emails and chat and even play some pretty primitive games. Yeah. They were really cool. So basically, you had to use the BBS software on a 56K modem. Okay, and the user would be presented with a login prompt that reads Gladys login. So that's, as if they didn't know already, but they would probably know by now, oh shit, okay, this is real and not just somebody fucking around.
How do you get a 56K modem in fucking 2010?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. So, like, you have to add in, so basically, you would add in the proper, I'm not even going to get into how you would find the right username and password. Okay, but you would get in, and basically, it came to this idea of Aperture Laboratories GLaDOS version 3.11. And basically it was kind of shown as Aperture Science from 1973 to 1997. It was kind of like, this is the website, this is the BBS that Aperture Science from Portal would have used. Okay. Yeah. And a lot of people were like, hey, this might have something to do with Portal 2. And it did. Okay. So what followed after that in the updates was a random file dump consisting of ASCII art, images, memorandums, written by Aperture Science CEO Cave Johnson, everybody's favorite, one of the greatest characters ever made. Okay, still is. And basically, if you left it idle for 40 minutes, the user would be presented with a warning that would say, hey, please log in now. You have 1 minute left. And after 5 minutes, it would kick you out. Okay, so that was one. Okay, that was one update. That was like one thing. Okay, and there's way more. There's way more.
Yep.
They did it like for over a year.
What the fuck?
They even had more than one. Okay, they had more than one ARG going on at the same time. And this is the other one that I do want to go in a little bit of detail. This is called the Potato Sack ARG. Okay, which, spoiler alert, this actually... Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to get into that. I'm actually going to save it. So basically, going to get into the Potato Sack. So basically, this ARG game, it required players to find and solve a number of puzzles hidden within 13 games. 13 different games on Steam, okay? Most of them were total indie games, seemingly nothing to do, okay, with Valve directly or with Portal 2.
Yep.
And basically, I won't get into the specifics, but there's essentially this kind of countdown timer that would redirect people to this fictional Aperture Science website calling itself Gladys Home. And essentially the idea was, hey, you need to find potatoes in all, whether it's an icon or whether it's a file or whatever it is in all these games. And the more potatoes you find, the more this meter will fill up. And as long as you fill up everything by this time, something is going to happen. Okay? I know I'm butchering it a little bit, and maybe somebody who played it is going to yell at me, but I'm trying really hard not to get too deep into this stuff because it would take forever. But basically, sometimes what ended up happening, okay, is that something that you would find in one game, you would have to use that inside another game. For example, you would play an audio file from BitTrip Beat. And then you would take that audio file and put it in a separate game named Audio Surf. And that game is kind of like a DDR game or like a rhythm game. So that would create a level based on that audio file. And then if you beat that level with a gold medal, you got a password. But it wasn't just a password. It was a password that was in a place where you weren't supposed to look for a password. It was on a leaderboard. So you were supposed to know that the cryptic message in the leaderboard was actually a password. And then you take that password and then you put it in the killing floor. And in the killing floor, it unlocks a potato that you can buy with in-game currency that you then have to play the game to buy. And that's how you got a potato, okay? And that was one potato, and you had to get 36 of them. Okay?
It's so funny because, like... Because, like, when this comes up, like, you have to find these things in these games. Yeah. So immediately my eyes were drawn to Defense Grid because I have that game. I like that game. I'm like, oh, man, if I was a potato bundle person, this would have been right up my alley. I could have played Defense Grid, maybe found a potato or two. There's no fucking way I would have found any potatoes in Defense Grid.
No, exactly. That's
based on what you're saying.
It's
because like I'm thinking like I just beat a level on super hard or like beat a level with certain towers only. Maybe they only start with the letter P, for example. But like it's so much more convoluted than that. It's insane.
Yeah. And my other favorite example of this, and this is sort of semi-related because in all of these clues and updates, basically people found that there were coordinates found from the clues that when you put them in Google Maps, it created letters. And those letters spelled out a Steam profile. And then you go to that Steam profile. And then you go to the Steam profile, and it has screen caps from Portal 2, which hadn't been announced yet, or hadn't been officially announced or shown yet. And then and it gets even better because people were like, wow, these screen caps are really cool. Those tile patterns on the wall, I wonder if those are QR codes. And they were. And so people scan, and it's just like, who's doing this? I don't know who's doing this. So basically...
I don't know either.
Yeah. So So basically, I bring all this up. I know that was a little slapdash, but again, like, I keep using this cliche, but the rabbit hole is deep on the Portal ARGs, and it's tricky to talk about it without talking about all of it, and without being reductive. And so I'm, for the sake of posterity, I'm being reductive. But all of that here, just to say, it kind of culminated in basically another sort of countdown going up, which was essentially just play the games. Just play all the games, play them a bunch. And a bunch of people did. And then whoever did, and whoever got the most potatoes, or all 36 potatoes, basically got free copies. Wait, so they found, they received Portal 2 themed items in Team Fortress 2, and basically they earned the right, this is the big spoiler, they earned the right that Portal 2 was launched 10 hours earlier than planned, which I think is really cool. I think it's really cool that, like, because of all their efforts, literally they were like, okay, you made it to the countdown on time, you unlocked it early, the game is out, like, right now. Yeah. Like, whenever it is, it's out now, you know? And so because of these super dedicated players, Portal 2 comes out 10 hours earlier, which obviously in the grand scheme of things, people might say, oh, 10 hours, who gives a shit? But I still think that's really cool. Like, that had to feel really fun for, like, the people behind it, that they go, man, look what we made happen. You know, like,
you know, the only critique is that they went with 10 hours instead of, say, 24. I think if you go with 24, it looks better in posterity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you said, the 10 hours just kind of feels a little bit paltry. Yeah. But at the same time, yeah, like, you made something happen. And if you're a potato master, you got free copy of Portal 2, and I think you were able to gift it to your friends. Was that it or something? Yeah. And plus all the Team Fortress stuff. Yeah. No, it was pretty cool.
Just super cool. So yeah. And again, I mean, we already just touched on this because of how freaky it was. Like, I loved Portal 2 and I loved Portal 1 and I played them a lot. I didn't even get to the point where I was like, let's look for radios, let alone all of this. Like, it's such a degree beyond, kind of, you know, and that's why, you know, I guess maybe what we're trying to say is if you're like us and you're stupid and lazy and you find this stuff fascinating, but you don't think you would ever do a lot of them, don't feel bad. You know, don't feel bad, because this is for the true, like, these people are warriors, man. Like, they live,
and it's
breathe,
also,
and eat this stuff.
And it's also, sorry to interrupt, Mike, but like, and it's also a hive mind thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not collecting every single thing. You're sharing the one thing you've found with the hundreds of thousands of other people who are also looking, and also kind of collecting what they've got. So that's another very important part of this whole thing, is the collective action, the feeling that you're part of something bigger, right?
Yeah. So you have to like people too. So that leaves me out.
I know, it's unfortunate. I can barely stand you both right now.
I could live 10,000 lifetimes and never find one of these things.
One potato, not a single potato.
I would be potato-less by the end of it all. This is the most insane shit I've ever seen. And the fact that it was like, when I got to the end of it, I was like, oh wow, I wonder what it was like for, like, those 3 people that, like, finished. 1,800 people did this.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so insane to me.
And again, it's to your point, like, that was just that was like, I went over the, you know, most of it very reductively, but that was just one update and kind of the end and, like, little pieces of it. There's so much more. Like, if you look for it, it's there. It's easy to find. You can trace the entire process, and it's absolutely nuts. And I doubt anybody was getting paid more to do it. And
no, in fact, you were buying their games. Like, you were spending money to do this.
Right. And also, like, you know, the developers were doing this. I mean, I'm not going to say, I'm sure some of it was done on company time, but I'm sure a bunch of it was just, well, if you can find the time to do it. But we don't have a dedicated ARG person, I don't think. I don't, like, maybe now they would, but I don't know about back then, you know.
Just thinking about the person who goes through all of this and then is like, oh, I'm not playing Killing Floor to get this potato. Like, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah. So that brings us to, so a bunch of people are saying, oh, okay, this is all cool, but all of this has to do about a game. So far, which is true. And, you know, we did say, though, that some of them are games in and of themselves. Like Majestic is a game in and of itself, but we haven't seen something like Majestic. Well, that changes now. So the big one that people can play right now, you can play it right now. You can get it on Steam. It's called the Black Watchmen. Okay, so the Black Watchmen has been coined a permanent ARG. So it's basically going to keep going until, I guess, they run out of money and they have to close the game down.
I guess.
So it's just going to keep going. And I want to paraphrase ACG, Angry Centaur Gaming, who, you know, once in a while has got a really cool thing to say about a game or two, if you want to check out his YouTube. But ACG said this about it. He said, if you're a paranoid type person, you might want to check with someone first about playing this, because I am not that type of person, and this shit freaked me out. Okay? So basically, he has a great video that has kind of a rundown of how the game works, but essentially you sign up for the game, you buy the game on Steam, you give them an email, you can even decide whether to give them your phone number or not, so similar to Majestic. And essentially in the Black Watchmen, you play as an agent. You go through simple code breaking and investigation training, and it's using external websites. So again, that's kind of the part of the altered reality. And then you're kind of let loose on solving puzzles that become progressively more layered and difficult. So basically, what they try to do in the Black Watchmen, because it's contemporary and because, again, that push-pull between the puppet masters and the players, they try to actually have stuff that relates around contemporary things. So I don't necessarily mean, you know, I don't mean directly, but, you know, one of the puzzles might have to do with sourcing numbers from NBA basketball schedules in order to discover a character's password, that kind of thing. Which is cool, right? Like, which is awesome when you think about it. Like for example, like, oh, we need to hack into this guy's account. He's really into the Spurs. Like, you know, maybe that has something to do with it. And then
who did they play on September 14th, 1967?
Yeah, exactly. Who's his favorite player? So basically, when you access this, and you could see it again, like it's I don't think it's even that expensive on Steam, but you get a worldwide map. It lets you see operatives all around the world who can help you with the touch of a button. You can reach out to them. You can communicate. Again, huge part of the tenets of ARGs, you know, that it's a hive mind, like Paul was saying before. This is we're going to get into a bit more of this later, but what I love about this is that there's degrees of agents in the game.
Yeah, I like this too.
Yeah,
so to reach the higher tiers of agents, or the highest tier, I should say, you need to literally apply, and you need to take a physical.
Hell yeah.
And you need to be, and sometimes even selected by the community to represent all of the Black Watchmen in an actual live event. Okay, which I think is really cool, because I'm assuming it's like, I'll just read this. It'll give you.
I'm assuming it's fucking Double Dare in real life.
I don't know, man. I don't know. So the top level. Okay, this is from the site itself and from the document. The top level is limited to one person per season. This requires a physical and psychological examination to ensure you're up for the task.
That rules me out.
Yeah, I know. You need to write an essay explaining why you want to be selected for this elite agent tier, and the community will vote. And if you're appointed, you'll be flown to a live mission location with actors, sets, and events that require input and cooperation with other players. So you're the man so you're the person on the ground.
Yep.
And their home base, they're the hive mind home base, and their HQ, and they're helping you out. And so go ahead. Sorry.
Also brings back memories of the movie The Game.
Yep.
Yes.
Because Michael Douglas has to go through this physical and psychological testing, and Yeah, man. I wonder if it's a callback to that. I wonder if like the physical actually matters.
Like,
do they check to see if you have a heart condition or like?
I bet they do, man, because it's also
You think so, eh?
Yeah, because they don't want you to drop dead in the middle of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a financial liability.
That would cast a shadow over the events.
I mean, for some people, it'd be like, oh, this is even cooler now. Like,
oh, shit's real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that note, this is kind of what I love. Okay, so basically, they've kind of talked to the creators of the game to get an idea of kind of what their mindset with this is. And again, I love this quote because it kind of really gets across the back and forth between the PMs and the players. So Doyon, this one guy, Doyon, who's one of the designers, he says, "We love to be able to change the story as it happens. We generally have 50% of the content, the storyline, and the structure of the game before we start the season." That's 50%. Okay, that's half. They only have half of it in their head, right? So there's 50% that we haven't decided how it's going to go. This enables us to take initiative from the players and community. That's why we release 3 mission sets, do the live event, and then take a 1 or 2 week break. In that break, we write the rest of the content and adjust based on how players are enjoying the game.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool. Now, to be clear, the vibe of the Black Watchmen is definitely kind of like X-Files-ish, a little grittier and darker. It's like 24 meets X-Files. It's kind of like, that's the vibe I get. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get from it. And I also mentioned 24 because there is time involved and stakes is high, brothers and sisters. Stakes is high. So Doyon explains how in the most recent live event at the time of this interview, it demonstrated consequences. So they brought in a player who participated in an earlier live event as a top-tier agent. In the scenario, she was kidnapped. With the new live event player and the online community, they had to save her. Okay, that was going to be the next big thing. Okay, and his quote, I love it. They had to save her, but they didn't. We deleted her account. We deleted her profile. It was over. The emotion of people when they realized they failed and there were clear consequences was exactly the kind of experience and surprise that we wanted the players to have. You can't do something like that if you already have your season, your assets, your shooting, and your actors. Yeah, which I love. You know, it's this because I love the idea. And again, everyone knows it's a game. We've obviously already talked about that.
It's not a game to me, Mike. It's not a game to me.
I love the fact it would blow your mind. It would. Like if you were that invested and you're like, it's like the Amazing Race, man. You're like yelling at the guy, the agent, to go do this, go do that. We're running out of time. And then
Why doesn't he speak English?
Yeah, and then you run out of time, and it's like, oh crap, we didn't make it. Well, I guess maybe they'll give us another chance. It's like, nah, she's dead, man. Like dead. And you're like, oops.
I think the fucked up part is that the only person suffering real consequences from that is that woman. Like, she now has no account.
But she's a legend now.
She is a legend.
She's a legend.
And she, like, I don't know, man. She probably got on a Steam sale. And I'm going to say she got her money's worth.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, had you guys heard of the Black Watchmen?
No.
Never.
No.
Not until right now.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like what Majestic should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you know what, man? And the other thing too is we just didn't have the critical mass of players back then.
Yeah.
Like there are far, far more video game and computer game players now than there were 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The advent of Steam has just made everything so seamless and easy for people to get into this kind of stuff. And as importantly, discover new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if Steam discovers that you're even a little bit interested in something like the Black Watchmen, it'll show it to you.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how about this game where you might, fictionally die after we fly you somewhere, right?
I like the thing. What's interesting to me also is, to your point, in terms of the timing being better now, and it's the right time. It's also about like the idea of digging, the idea of Easter egg hunting, the idea of like looking deeper than that, of further, that kind of trend is almost at its peak now with stuff like, I hate to even say it, but, you know, Ready Player One, with things like that. It's kind of at its peak, this idea of like, we want to dig, we want more lore, we want more canon, we want more backstory. We're going to look at every minute detail. You know, back in the days of Majestic, that hadn't really caught on as a thing that we do, but now that's everywhere. That mindset, there's so many fans who are fanatical about what they like now, and that mindset is there too. So if you combine, like you're saying, the audience is there, the way to get it out to people is there, the interest is there in doing this, all of that kind of combines together. I think it's no wonder that it's been a success and it's been going well.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that just like Majestic, it times how much you do in a day. It makes sure that, okay, like, you know, you've done your assignment for today. That's cool. What I also like about it, though, is that it really gets across that you can put in as much to this as you want.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be, and that's why it is a good gateway. It is a good gateway into kind of seeing like, hey, am I going to be into this? You know, like, because there is going to be some back and forth with other people. You are going to need to do that. But with the Black Watchmen, it's more interesting because I think it's so slick the way it's all presented, and it's just focused enough that you're not going to feel like you're kind of wasting your time or twiddling your thumbs or need to take that much initiative at first. And so it's just a really good gateway to it. And it's funny because I was going to ask, all of the other ARG stuff we've been talking about, I'm not sure. I mean, I say I'm not sure, but I'm pretty dang sure. Like, I wouldn't have gone into any of it. I wouldn't have had the patience or the interest or just known. I wouldn't have just been able to figure it out. But when I look at the Black Watchmen, I'm like, I think I could try this. I think I could do this. You know, like, it would be a cool place to start. It'd be kind of localized in one place. Would you guys ever picture yourself or someone you know maybe trying this out? Or is there is there someone you know that would be like, oh, dude, man, maybe you should check this out?
I'm a relatively healthy 30-year-old, knock on wood. But if I ever contracted a terminal illness, this is my make-a-wish. Like, I want to be the top-tier agent on one of these things. I would absolutely do this. Like, this one specifically, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I can see you doing it. I know a guy also who would be really into this, and I think I could be convinced to. And I can see myself falling into the rabbit hole. The thing about Black Watchmen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but doesn't it kind of have like a like once you start and you kind of select the level of agent that you want, doesn't it kind of have some testing to figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at and so on? Like, I feel like this game would be pretty good at identifying what I'm good at, presenting me with those kind of problems so that I feel good about myself. And then starting to like include other stuff that kind of, you know, stretches me and forces me to exercise my brain in a different way. This is a very rudimentary way of explaining it, but I feel like these are professionals who are interested in keeping something going rather than presenting something that's kind of known to be a one-shot deal and strictly for promotion. I think that's a big difference.
The other thing I like about this thing too, sorry Mike, is
go ahead.
That it seems like something that I could very easily convince people in my life to do that aren't necessarily into video games. Like, I know a lot of people that love, like, brain teasers and puzzles and, like, tabletop stuff, but video games are not, like, their cup of tea. But this is something that straddles that line well enough that you could definitely be like, hey, you want to try this? And they'd be like, oh, I'll check this out for sure.
Yep. And it's what both of you guys already touched on it, but it's that idea of, and Paul, I'm really glad you brought it up, but the other thing that I think is really interesting is that it's so much the hive mind kind of mentality, everybody working together. What that leads to is people working to their specialties, working to their strengths. And that keeps it fun, like for as many people as possible, because they always feel useful. They feel like, okay, I might not get this part, but I get this part and I can help with that. And it leads to people taking the pieces of the puzzles that they like and putting the pieces of the puzzles that they don't like or that they're not as good at. They leave it there because they know someone else is going to get it, and everyone else kind of feels, and that reinforcement is so key because, again, I understand why someone who wants to play this would go, man, I don't want to deal with people. Like, believe me, I get it. But at the same time, it's not just that it's more fun because you'll meet new people and they'll be cool and that'll be fun. It's also more fun because you're not going to be the one stuck trying to solve every single kind of puzzle that gets thrown at you. You're going to have other resources to go, oh yeah, cool, they can help me out with that, do that solid. I'm going to help with this. We're going to work together, get it done twice as fast. And like, that is exciting. Okay. Like that part of it is exciting. It reminds me of, if you guys have ever played Her Story, it was a similar vibe to me in Her Story because I played Her Story with a group of people. We all sat down for a whole day and we just played it together, like 6 of us. And it was such an awesome experience to play Her Story with that many people and to have other people go, maybe it means that. Maybe what she meant was that. Look that up and say things that I never would have thought of and vice versa. It's such a cool experience when that happens. And it looks like a lot of ARG, I mean, I guess all ARGs, and especially the Black Watchmen, it's built around that kind of stuff. And it feels really good. So if you've never felt it, give it a shot. You know, like give it a shot if it's something that looks interesting to you, you know? And
yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. We're going to take another break right now. And when we come back, I do kind of want to give a little quick shout out to some stuff that's not related to games, just very quickly in passing that you can check out. And then just kind of leave off with our final thoughts and questions and discussion on ARGs as a whole, what we've learned. And we're back. Before we get to kind of final sort of discussions and little statements, wanted to talk a little bit about some other really notable examples and try to use them from kind of different medias, you know, so either film, music, or books, or TV. Not going to go into any big detail here because obviously we already have, and it's more about the games. But, you know, just some stuff in case people are curious. 42 Entertainment, their first ARG was actually The Beast, which we mentioned before, which was for the film AI, artificial intelligence, that one that started through Stanley Kubrick's work and eventually was finished up by Steven Spielberg. And that was kind of their first sort of ARG, and it kind of told sort of the story about a fictional Janine Sala and the death of her friend Evan Chan. And Evan was murdered. Her investigation uncovers a network of murders of humans and artificial intelligences, and it basically culminated with, you know, the film's release date. Another one that I love is Year Zero for Nine Inch Nails. So that's a music one. So Nine Inch Nails had a record called Year Zero, and there was this huge ARG that kind of took place in parallel with it. And it tells this story of United States in the far off year of 2022.
Oh, fuck.
And 2022 has been termed Year Zero by the government. So the year that America was reborn. And basically it's this whole Christian fundamentalist kind of theocracy thing.
Oh,
and it's
super Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yeah, maintaining control of the population with drugs and with passive things. But the part that is so cool,
thank God that'll never happen, huh?
Yeah, I know, thank God, right?
That shouldn't be funny.
What's so cool is there is this thing called the presence okay, that's amidst all the chaos that's happening right now, because there's like resistance movements to this church and stuff like that, and there's this thing called the Presence, which is a pair of massive ghostly hands that extend down from the sky into the ground, okay, and basically there were all these, and it's and like, I know it sounds like it's stupid, but trust me, it's terrifying the way that it's kind of portrayed, because it's done, you know, Nine Inch Nails is no stranger to awesome sound production, to ambient, kind of terrifying sort of sounds and chilly things. And so they use all that to create these film clips, these short film clips of kind of captured, found, lost media of people filming things. And you just see this giant hand, and it's so scary, dude. It's terrifying. Okay, so the whole idea.
I got a game for you, Mike. It's Super Smash Brothers at the end of that game.
Oh, there you go.
Scare the shit out of you.
Yeah, it probably would. But what's cool is I do want to say that it did culminate with something really cool, which is that a bunch of the hardcore fans were given resistance kits, with burner phones, and they were, they attended resistance meetings, and they had like people getting up and doing speeches in uniform, and it looked really cool. And what I love is that a lot of them culminated with a free concert. So it was this kind of free, intimate Nine Inch Nails concert where he was playing stuff off Year Zero, which, again, if you're a super fan, which I'm assuming you are, that would have been a hell of a cool treat.
Yeah.
Gravity Falls TV show, they did one called Cypher Hunt. Dark Knight obviously did Why So Serious. That was a huge one. Books have done them. Like, shout out to my boy David Wong from X Cracked, who did This Book Is Full of Spiders, and he also did John Dies at the End. You might have heard of that.
Yes.
And Flynn Lives was the one for Tron Legacy, which is another one that people might have remembered. I had a t-shirt. I had a Flynn Lives t-shirt, but basically there was a whole thing where they actually built a real arcade that looks like Flynn's Arcade from the original Tron, that had a real secret passage behind one of the arcades and like the whole thing, and which was really cool.
That's awesome.
So now that we've kind of discussed a bunch of them, and we've kind of talked a little bit about this, so just to kind of review it all and tie it up in a nice bow, do you guys think you would ever be up for trying, one or more of the ARGs that we've talked about? I know we talked about the Black Watchmen, and we kind of said that we might be ready to do that, but like, realistically and logistically, do you think it's kind of feasible at this point, or do you think our lives are just too busy for it? Like, who is this for?
I mean,
what do you think, Arnie?
Yeah, it's definitely not for somebody who has like 3 jobs and is like just trying to get by, But yeah. I think if you're, it's tough because again, like a lot of this like requires you to be able to like get around. So like if it's not in a city where like public transportation is really readily available, like kind of rules out like anyone below 16. But anybody like above 21 maybe is like probably too busy to like really get into this. So it's tough. It's tough to figure out. Like, I'm trying to think of like, when's the time in my life when I could have done this? And I'm like, maybe when I was like 19 to 20, like when college was wrapping down. Or when you're retired.
Or retired.
But I would love to do one of these. Like, all of these sound really cool. And we haven't even talked about like the ones I remember the most are the marketing ones. Like, I remember the UK one they did for Resident Evil where they left all the body parts like scattered across the city. That did not end well.
That did not
work.
Was not received well.
I left off the failures. I left off the ones.
But there was
don't talk
Fortnite did one where they put like the Fortnite pinatas in like different parts of the world and stuff, like different countries that people could find. Trials did one that's like very famous with this like time capsule that's not going to be opened for like 110 years or something. So there's a bunch of them. But this Black Watch thing, or what was it? Yeah, it's
Black Watchmen.
Black Watchmen. This is the one that I'm like, like, more of this, please. More, like, seasonal content that, like, I can just become involved with at some point. Because the problem is that I'm not online enough to hear about these things as they happen. I will always either catch the end of them when, like, they've become popular enough that it's, like, mainstream, or I'll hear about them, like, once they've ended. And that's the real problem for me, is the accessibility of it all.
Yeah. As for me, no. Like, look,
Yeah, no,
I mean,
I'm with you.
I was just thinking about it. Like, even the Black Watchmen, and even though it's on sale right now on Steam for $3, I'm like, $3, of course. And now that I've thought about it a little more, so, like, okay, so for example, before the show we were talking about Inscription, that new card game, right?
Yep.
And Inscription's kind of a mashup. Like, it's kind of a mashup of deck building game like Slay the Spire, but it also has some puzzle solving. And almost every time the game required me to do some kind of puzzle solving, environmental puzzle solving, I was like, oh, fuck, I just want to play cards. You know what I mean? Every like, almost every single time. That said, now that I'm saying this out loud, every time I did solve a puzzle, I felt like $1,000,000 fucking bucks.
Yeah.
So, like, on one hand, I'm kind of annoyed that I had to do this, but on the other hand, the payoff, geez, I'm changing my mind in real time here. Maybe I will play the Black Watchmen. I don't know. That feeling you get when you solve the puzzle is really nice. Yeah. But the feeling you get when you can't solve the puzzle and you're revealed as the idiot that you are is a little bit less fun.
Yeah, but you know, that's why you reach out to other people. Like, agents,
that is why you reach out to other people. Yeah,
can't be good at everything. Yeah. Agents need other agents.
Now that portal shit,
it's true.
Fuck
it's
that.
True.
No,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely not. If so, okay. So here's kind of a funny question. What would be a property? This is just more for my curiosity. What would be a property that if they did do one?
Phantasy Star.
You know, that you would be like, yes, I'm going to do it. Whatever it is. I will go anywhere. I will do anything. Okay, maybe not that, but you get my point. You get my point. Like what would be a property or something that would happen that would actually make you, like, really buy in, you think?
I think one IP that could really pull it off is Metal Gear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, good point.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think they would have done that.
Yeah. No, I don't know how they haven't done a Persona 1. Like, I think that would be beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, man.
It's tough. It's tough with the fantasy ones.
Yeah.
Like, I said Phantasy Star off the bat, and that remains true. But, like, it's very difficult if you don't have, like, a real lightsaber and a real talking cat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Paul,
So
but
that's
picture
a little
this,
bit...
Paul. You solve a bunch of puzzles, right?
Mayo, the talking cat?
Yeah, Mayo.
Imagine you solve a bunch of puzzles, and then they send you, like, a message just like, be in front of this building by, like, you know, whatever date at whatever time. You go, and a limo pulls up, and it opens, and it's blue inside. All of it is blue, and you sit... And fucking Margaret's there, and Igor's there, and they're so like fucking taking you to a second location, which you should never go to a second location. Yeah. And you know,
this would be the highlight of my life.
Yeah, the piano's playing. The piano.
Exactly,
I can literally drop the mic on my life. Yeah.
It's like the opera singers going through, like,
dude.
Oh,
you show up at a warehouse. There's a bunch of guys dressed like Mara and fucking Beelzebub sitting on the toilet.
You're like, oh no. You're like, wait, no, this isn't the party I wanted. But you bring up
That's pretty good.
You do bring up a good point, because, like, obviously the social aspect also comes into play in the sense that, like, you're the one who's like, okay, I guess I'm gonna take the bus and go downtown and stand in this place now and wait for something to happen. Yep. Like that might be another part of the social aspect, is that, well, I guess we'll all go together, right? I'll see you guys there, right? Like, it's kind of like, that might be easier to do. It might be easier to go do something.
What if they made a physical recreation of Juness, Paul, and you go in there and you can sing the song? And there's a TV, there's a flat screen TV that's like fake, and you walk through it, and there's a guy dressed like Teddy that gives you glasses.
You have to do Persona 4 dancing all night. Like, you have to mimic the movie.
Oh my god!
Perfectly.
Too bad these games have already come out.
I know.
Like, we can't.
Man.
It's pointless.
But even
now
for
to do
Persona
these,
5, like, what if you got a letter that's like inviting you to join the Phantom Thieves or something? You know what I mean?
We're gonna steal your, or just a letter saying we're gonna steal your heart.
Yeah.
You got to sort of figure out. You got to track down.
Oh my god, Arnie, your talents honestly are just being fucking wasted on this show.
Oh.
Like, why are you not in Atlas marketing? Jesus Christ.
So that's, I mean,
For the Metal Gear one, though, they need to send you like a snake that you have to like eat to find a message inside or something.
oh yeah, that'd be super good. That would be amazing.
One of those giant gummy snakes that weigh like 5 pounds.
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah. No. So, what do you guys think makes a good ARG or makes a bad one? I know this is kind of a weird question, but I'm curious. You know, we haven't really played one, but we have seen the ones that are successful and the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
And like, what do you think are the things that like set it apart and make it, you know, for example, I love bees versus Last Call Poker, Resident Evil versus Portal. Like, what is it? You know, like, do we think that it does it have something to do with the social is it the social interaction? Is it the give and take, the adaptability? Is it just commitment to some kind of insane deep lore? Because I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I always wonder, are the people doing this, are they super fans of the properties, or do they just love puzzles? Do they just love finding this stuff out? Because it seems like the people who are into one are into all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, is it about the properties? Is it just about, I want to solve this specific type of puzzle and this is what's going to help me scratch that itch?
Yeah.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think you can tell just from the I Love Bees example that it has nothing to do with the property.
Right.
Right? Like, I Love Bees was a thing even before it was hinted at in the Halo 2 trailer.
Yeah.
And it still kind of had nothing to do with Halo 2 until, sort of the end when you're kind of revealing more of the story. Up until then, it's just kind of a mystery to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Halo 2 just gave it the exposure it needed in order to really kind of reach a critical mass of people working on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think it's that. I think it's more the puzzle. And that kind of ties into one of the things I think makes it successful is that it's not tied to the property.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you tie it, look, man, as soon as you tie anything like this to any kind of overt expression of advertisement or an overt connection to a particular property, you lose that sense of immersion. You're like, oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, and again, I Love Bees is such a great example in that it's just so weird, dude. Like, how on earth do you connect that to Halo, a beekeeping website? Like, it's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the social aspect too. Like, it's the same. Look, it's the same reason MMOs are so successful, right? Like, once you kind of create a social obligation, that player is hooked.
Yeah.
That's it. You're in, right?
Yep.
And so as soon as you reach out to someone and either ask for help or offer help, then we have created a social obligation.
Yep.
Now you are in the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you will keep coming back, and the price of leaving the game is to cut this person out of your life, which is never easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
I agree with Paul wholeheartedly. Like, I think the most important thing is the commitment to the bit on the part of the developers of the ARG.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the number one thing here is like, it's a game come to life, right? Like, I'm part of the game, and so I think people will forgive a lot for that experience. And so if the creators are sort of committed in that way of designing the puzzles, keeping it going, like being very active in pushing it, it sort of leads into the second part, which is the community, right? Like, if you get a good community of people, whether it doesn't have to be huge, but if you get a decent sized community of people that are helping each other out, sort of working through all the puzzles and doing all the things, I think it creates an experience that just can't be replicated by anything else. Like, there's the feelings you get from doing this are from this. Like, you can't play a video game or watch a movie or do some other thing that's going to replicate this sort of communal interaction and like physical presence of like going to a payphone during an active hurricane, like to talk to someone on like,
yeah,
you know?
No, it's true. And it creates a feeling of like, what if this is real? Because we all know it's not real, except maybe like a couple people, but like there's kind of like this wonder involved, like, wow, what if this could actually happen? It sounds ridiculous, but it's the same way I feel every time I watch Field of Dreams. Because Field of Dreams is rooted in this kind of reality, and the thing that happens is this single fantastical thing, and it's like, wow, imagine if that actually happened or could happen. And you get that from these altered reality games in a way that you just can't get from like a conventional video game or really most other forms of media.
In a sense, it's, when done well, it feels to me like the closest you can get to like being a child using your imagination again. Like it really is the closest you can get to like, let's play pretend and like really, you know, but obviously taken to the logical extent of like, we're adults now, we have money, let's like actually make the things.
Yeah. Dude, I played ARGs every fucking day at the playground.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah. It's the last thing I want to bring up, and I'm playing sort of a devil's advocate kind of cynical side of it here, but because to me the answer is obvious, you know, my opinion. You know, are these games necessary? Are they good or bad? Kind of for the game in the end, because I know this is a bit of a weird question, but stay with me. Like, would the money be better suited, you know, at a more standard campaign, you know, or on the development of maybe the game itself, you know, like is it actually making that much of a dent outside of a cool press release? Or, you know, because again, it's not like it's millions of people, you know, like it's maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of people get this experience, let alone the people that kind of get the culminating experience, you know. Is it, and again, I'm obviously not talking about the Black Watchmen because that's the purpose in and of itself, but stuff like with I Love Bees. Now, you know, is it even worth it? And, you know, like, why even do this? And, you know, I'm asking that kind of devil's advocate because my opinion is, you know, I don't know whether it is I don't know whether it's like statistically better or not. But to me, I love it. To me, I love that this exists because I just don't think there's a way that you can do some of these, especially the ones that are as well done as they are with the resources they have. There's no way you can do this unless it's coming from a good place. Like it has to come from a place of wanting to engage with your most hardcore audience, whether they just love puzzles or love the property. You're giving something back to them. And at the same time, you know, you might eventually be drawing attention to some other thing, maybe, or the game itself. And to me, it's just it is good. Like, is it good in terms of the numbers? Objectively, I have no idea. But in terms of everything else, I am so glad it exists. I want more to exist, even though I'll never play them. I love them because to me, it's I can't think of a clearer way for the people making the thing to kind of reach out, interact, do something that is just them saying, we are literally doing this just for you. And that's it. Like for these fans. And I love that. And so like that's my take on it, but I don't know. I'm trying to kind of be objective and I'm wondering if like, what do you guys think?
I'll tell you exactly where it's worth it and where it's not very easily. And it was with two words you said there, Mike: hardcore audience. This kind of advertising works when you already have a hardcore audience.
Right.
So when you're trying to advertise Portal 2, when you're trying to advertise Halo 2, like these are things that people are already looking forward to. You already have a fan base, and then you're giving them this Easter egg hunt to create more hype, create more news outlet coverage, and so on. And this is why it didn't work as well for Gun. Gun didn't have a hardcore audience to kind of hype up and drum up support for. So that's really, I think, where it's best utilized. It's not, I don't think these are that expensive compared to a conventional campaign, but the kind of buzz they can create. Look, and I mean, I Love Bees that's a singular event because that was the first time, right?
Yep.
So that's not going to happen again, but it doesn't mean that it still can't be worth it vis-a-vis the portal situation, right?
Yeah.
But I think you do have to have established fans of the property first.
Yeah,
it's a good point. Yeah.
I think from a purely numbers perspective, probably not worth it. Again, I'm pulling that straight out of my ass. Like, I don't know if it actually does make financial sense to do it. So, like, probably not, but we live in a hell world, and there's enough stuff making us miserable on a daily basis that if like this makes a small group of people very, very happy, it's absolutely worth it. You should do it all the time. I think everybody should.
That's what
fucking
corporations are all about, dude.
Well,
doing it for the people. They are
small
friends.
people, very happy.
Well, according to us, they are people, so of course they love doing that. But I think if you like, Paul's right in that absolutely, if you have an established property, you're gonna get a lot more bang for the buck here. But all of these, like even the bad ones, which we didn't really talk about the bad ones, but I was like, that seems like a fun time. Like, I'd go out in London and collect human body parts, like, for the Resident Evil thing.
Hey, man.
Like,
Any news is good news.
No,
right?
it's true. I'm glad you touched on the sort of grassroots element where it's like, some of the most successful ones, it's because they had a huge audience already anticipating it. And how does that change if it's not that? And I mean, it's interesting. That is an interesting thing. And I think that obviously it does have something to do with it. But I do agree with Arnie, to your point too, that it's kind of like, it can't be, if it's not that expensive to do and it's something kind of interesting, like why not?
Make people happy. Give them a story to tell, like, people down the road, like, it's an experience.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, we made it. We ventured past our known reality into an altered one, if you will, and returned to tell the tale. I want to thank Paul and Arnie for serving as my lifeline to the shared consciousness. We all especially want to thank listeners, patrons, and our Twitch pals for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoyed it and you check some of these out. Please let us know if you did. Again, if you liked what you heard and want to hear more, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts is a huge solid for us. There's over 100 past episodes available there for you to turn on, tune in, and drop out to. Anybody get that reference? No?
Sadly, no.
Damn it. You can keep track of all our shenanigans on social media using our link tree and chat with us on our Discord channel. You can meet other great people there too. And if you fancy being generous, we have a Patreon with some great perks at affordable tiers. So until next time, thank you everyone. Stay safe. Take care out there. This is the Region Free Gamers, the podcast Fluent in Gaming, signing off to visit parallel universes.